I'm here with Shaun of Repentance to talk about The Process of Human Demise, out September 1st on Noble Demon.
I've heard of that too.
Oh, all right.
So
We have
funny.
good taste. What can I say? We have good taste. First of all, thank you for taking the time. We've known each other for a while. We've talked for a while, but you've never been on the channel. So I think this is a great opportunity to pop that cherry and to have you on to talk about the record, talk about the process that you went through creating this album and everything that has to do with the band. So thank you very much for taking the time.
Appreciate it. And congrats to all your hard work and all your growing success with the channel. It's great. I love watching you guys on it. And I think that you guys are entertaining and it's fun and fresh. It seems very realistic and not like some like super, macho fake website or reviews. It's like, it just seems real genuine and honest. And that's what I appreciate. I like watching and seeing stuff like that, especially
I
in
appreciate it
in this day and age.
Yeah, because that's exactly what we're trying to do. Just not editing anything, just pressing record, and my son and I just going at it, talking about music and bands and videos and
Yeah,
whatever. Just really no filters, but very very true to ourselves and very true to the music that we love. We're not just doing videos on YouTube. We go to the shows. We're part of the scene here. You know what I mean? So to us, this runs deep. It means a lot to us. We don't monetize the channel, so we're definitely not doing it for the clicks. I can tell you that much. So,
right. And I really feel that you guys convey that. So I think that's whatever you're doing, keep it going, buddy. Yeah.
but we're
Keep
not
the
here to
metal,
talk about
the
me.
metal going.
Well, we're here to talk about you and the work that you've put into this record. First of all, since we talked about Noble Demon, let me ask you this: how's the partnership been? How's the relationship been with Noble Demon?
It's good. It's good. It's obviously, they're relatively kind of newer label, compared to some of the other labels that have been around 20, 30 years. But Patrick was involved with a lot of those labels, especially in Europe and Germany. So he's well rooted and has his foot in the door a long time. And it's been good. We did the EP as kind of like a introduction to bring forth new Repentance music before a full album and with a new lineup with Adam singing. Especially, I wanted people to start hearing new music after the debut. And I think that Noble Demon's a little more diverse roster.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's cool. I don't want to be on a label where 25 bands all sound like Repentance, because I don't think you really stick out. And for me also, I felt it was really cool to be on a label that was European. So different avenues and different people are working within the structure of the label. And I think that it's a growing label, and it seems like it's building good momentum. And he's always been supportive of the stuff. When Patrick first heard the debut, God for Day, he really dug it. And I said, well, just wait. Some changes going on and some restructuring on our own end. And I wanted him to hear new music, and then that really made him say, okay, let's rock, let's work together. So,
Yeah, I've known him for a while from his days at Nuclear Blast, and
yeah.
he's always been a solid dude, great guy. So I was really happy to see when you guys went there, because I think it's going to be a fruitful partnership for both of you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going good, and I think that they understand that we're an American band. We're not exactly we're not a Power Wolf. We're not a Stradivarius. We're not one of those bands that in Europe is very very popular, that style and genre. And they knew that we're definitely more in whatever you want to subgenre call us, just a brutal American metal band. So, and that was cool. And I think that, like I said earlier, I feel it really helps us stick out a little bit on the roster. And help label in America having a band here too.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to say, whatever they call you, as long as they don't call you new metal, right?
I don't regret posting that on my Facebook, and the threads and the comments are awesome, especially when you have like Monty Connor and whatever Borivor from Blabbermouth chuckling in, and it's cool for me, but I'm honest, man. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I don't care what people think of me. I appreciate people liking my past bands and my work and my music, and obviously our band Repentance. But I just I hate that title, and I had to post it because there was some news about my old band, and in a couple of album reviews they mentioned former new metal guitar player, and I'm just like, like if you really did your research on me, I think you would know that I'm not really a new metal guy. And no disrespect, I like some Corn. I could get my car and crank some Corn and Static X I like, but I would never ever call the music I wrote or was part of in that genre. We never had a rapper, we never had a DJ. Like all that stuff to me is more associated with that genre.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
I just don't really feel akin to it.
I don't think you've ever been any close to it at all. I don't see where I think it's lack of understanding what the sound is, and then just going back at that time period, and it's like,
Yes.
oh, new metal kind
Era.
of fits. Put it there.
Yeah. When I started writing songs back after Broken Hope to form the band Soil, uh, and when Halo finally came into one of the songs that I was writing with the guys, it was so much more Pantera. Like that was like I was like, all right, I want to have a tribal intro. I was thinking Total Sepultura, like Soulfly. And that was the first thing I remember sitting in the rehearsals talking to my drummer, like, give me something tribal, and kick into like a heavy down, 4/4 groove, like full on tight Pantera. And like, I wasn't thinking, all right, we're gonna write this Limp Bizkit song now. This is gonna be dope, yo. And that like it was
You were
so
not all
not,
about the cookie or the nookie for that matter.
yeah. And God bless Fred Durst for making millions of fans and selling gazillion albums, but that was never on my radar, and I never ever felt associated with that. And I was bald in photos, and all of a sudden I was David Draymond's stepbrother, right? So, I love David. He's a Chicago bald metal Jew. So
You mentioned lineup change, so let me start off by as we talk about this new record to go into that. How did the lineup change impact not just the final result of what the album sounds like and how the vocals come across, but even the creative process? Was there an impact there as well?
yeah, I felt everybody understood and knew the direction of the band and didn't try to change songs or intervene just for the sake of intervening and trying something that didn't fit the sound of the band. And I think that this lineup and everybody's input was way more understandable, and everyone knew what fit the sound of Repentance. And especially Adam, because let's be honest, the vocals are very important, and especially in our band, like the vocals are very, very upfront. They're loud in the mix. They're very key. Adam's very visual live. So I think that making sure that the next level, the next step after the debut, Adam really shined and had to really just destroy what was done in the past. And I really wanted to make sure that when people hear the new album, that they really embrace and feel the progression for the debut album. And everyone's playing, especially, but the vocals are very important because people are always going to compare your album before if you had a different singer. You're always going to compare Paul Di'Anno to Bruce Dickinson. You're always going to compare Sammy Hagar to David Lee Roth. And some people like one or the other, but to me I felt it was such a huge upgrade. And also I wanted to make sure that the listener never was like, questioning. I wanted to be like, destroy, erase, improve.
And when it comes to God for a Day, what lesson did you take from that record that you can see having the biggest impact on these changes, on this approach, and on this record?
Do what do what you feel. Do what you believe in. Don't let anybody doubt you. Don't let naysayers bring you down, and don't let negative outside opinions bring you down. And that's, I hate to say it, not to throw anyone in particular under the bus, but yeah, I learned a lot of. I've been doing this long enough where it's just like, you know what? If you don't like it and don't think this is good, then you shouldn't be part of it. If you believe and are, really put your care and effort into it, and go gung ho, then fucking let's do it, But not be a Debbie Downer naysayer just for the fact of when it's not my way. And I think, not to point out certain people, but there was some childish actions in the past. And I feel on the process of human demise, there was none of that. There was no roadblocks, no distractions. And I think it shows. I think it's a huge progress. Not that God for a Day isn't a strong debut, but I just think everything's firing on a much higher level. These are bigger bullets.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was one of the first things I noticed listening to this record. It feels it's not just a step up, it's a leap forward in terms of what not to say that the debut wasn't good. It's just that anytime you listen to a sophomore record, you want to see growth from the band. You don't want to see the band water from what the previous album was. And I think this record definitely shows that. It feels like a more complete work. It feels like a more mature album. It just feels better all around. And that kind of leads me to my next question. Do you approach the creative process of an album different from album to album, or do you have like a roadmap that you try to follow as closely as possible?
To be brutally honest, not at all. I just start writing riffs and then bring them to the table, and whether it's at practice or whether it's at our engineer Alex Lackner. He produced the album. I can't say he is still technically from the band Lazarus AD. He lives right down the street from me, and he produced the new album. But sometimes I'll bring riffs over to his place, his studio, and just start recording ideas. And then we're like, all right, let's sit on that. And then I'll go to practice and bring stuff to the guys, like, hey, let's try this or that. Or even on my couch with my amp in my room, jamming along. I'm like, grab my phone real quick and go, oh, I think I got something. I do a lot of that too. I write a lot of riffs and put them on my phone, then bring them into the science lab, and then begin to morph the metal creation. You can't take it too serious.
You have to have fun with it.
Yeah, and also it's not a concept album. Like, I'm not writing Nostradamus or whatever. I'm not trying to write some very deep a religious or political or whatever album or spiritual album. Like, I want to write an album that just grabs you and kicks your ass and grabs you by the throat and punches you down, and then you get up and just like, yeah, I love it. That was so metal, like I that's kind of more my vibe than thinking deep into it. And all right, this next song has to have, me standing on the Titanic going down. Like it's not like that, It's like I want it like more like you're just constantly getting pulverized.
Yeah, and you go more with a gut feel of how it is. One of the things I noticed about this album is it has a lot of like little life characteristics in terms of how it comes across. Like when you listen to these songs, you're like, wow, man, these songs are very raw, very punchy. And immediately in the back of your mind, you're like, wow, these will work extremely well in a live setting, because it feels like it's going to translate really good in terms of the sound, the approach, the vocals, the whole overall atmosphere of the tracks. Do you worry about that aspect? Do you want the songs to be able to be what they are in the studio equally to what they're going to be when you perform them live?
Yeah, absolutely. Like when you listen to Rain and Blood by Slayer, like, that this is going to rip your face off. And then when you go see them live, you're going to get that same emotion. And I think that especially with the new album, Repentance, Process, Human Demise, I think that's definitely always in mind. Like what is going to make the audience move? What's going to make it the mosh pit circle, and what's riff's going to breakdown's going to cause a total chaos. So yeah, it's important that what you're hearing in your home or the gym or your car or whatever, that you're getting that same emotion. And yeah, it's very important. And live, you know, when we work on our set list for gigs, we really do make sure that, you know, all right, let's not put 3 songs that are the exact same tempo or you know, time signature. So like, you know, you don't want to put 3, 6, 8 songs in a row, or don't want to put 4 songs that are at 198 BPM. So we do think about that, and especially in the album running order, I'm pretty particular about that. Yeah, it all plays a role, from the live show to the album running order. To me, like, I've heard so many great albums, and then sometimes I've heard great albums by bands where they don't put the right running order of an album, and I'm like, why would they put these first 2 tracks first? Like, when tracks 4 and 5 are like so much stronger. Like, you got to come out all guns blazing, you know?
I
But
I listened to an album recently where I had to change the track listing
you
order.
made your own order.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
in my own order. It's the only way I can. I love the record. Don't get me wrong. I love the record, but there's no way I can listen to that album from start to end in the order that it came out. I can't.
yeah. And you know what? It goes back to your question about live. Yeah, because you're listening to that album and not getting the experience that you want, that could be there, and you create a better running order than the artist or the label or the manager, whoever flubbed up. But yeah, that stuff all plays a role, man. Like, everything is important to me. The artwork's still important. We're metal, you know. Like, there's no way that nobody. There, a good example is like Obituary, Cause of Death. They still sell that shirt every tour, and you know why? Because that album cover is amazing. You know, like, it sums up what you're gonna listen to and buy. You know, Iron Maiden. When I saw Killers as a kid, it blew my mind. I was at a record store with my parents. I'm like, I have to buy that. You know, like, I didn't even know who they were, but I saw Eddie, you know, full
I had,
color, you know, and that stuff's so important to the content of being of an
I
album,
had
a
a
body of work.
similar I had a similar experience with Bonded by Blood by Exodus. I was like, I've never heard of these guys before, but this artwork, this looks fucked up. I'm buying it. So
Yeah,
back then there was no YouTube, no internet, no nothing.
right.
So the artwork played a huge role for a fan going into a record store to pick up a band that you've never heard before. The artwork was a huge selling point.
Yeah, it's so true. And especially, I think, in death metal, more so than ever. Like, if a Cannibal Corpse album, you know, comes out and all of a sudden there's a pink sheep on it, people are going to question buying that new Cannibal Corpse album.
It's true.
You know?
It's definitely true. It definitely plays a role. I think it still does play a role. I think the track listing is a little bit of a lost art these days because most people listen to it on Spotify's and whatever playlists, and
Yeah,
they're not listening to records from start to finish. So it's hard for guys like us who listen to albums from beginning to end. That's how we grew up, to explain to
yeah.
them how important things, like for me to explain to my son how important the track listing is, because he looks at me like, who cares? I'm gonna put it on shuffle and whatever. Like, it's like,
Oh
dude,
no, I can't do that.
you're missing the whole vibe of the album. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck are you doing? You know?
Yeah, yeah. Imagine, like, the first time you ever heard Kill 'Em All, you just shuffled it, right? You know what I mean? You'd be like,
I never thought
dude, this
about
doesn't
that.
make sense. All of a sudden, you start the record with anesthesia, you'd be like, huh? You know. But it's like, yeah, that don't roll like that. And our album is definitely, both our albums are well thought out, and I feel the running order is pretty cohesive and important and flowing with how I want the listener to experience it, for sure.
You had a couple of guests on this record. Is there somebody that you haven't worked with on an album that, as you start maybe to look forward into album number 3, you're like, man, I would really like to have this guy or this girl or whoever on work with you on a track?
Yeah, it'll probably happen in the future, but I really want Michael and Mott to do a shred. I love Arch Enemy. Michael's a close friend of mine for a long time, and I just feel like, in this day and age, he's like the Michael Schenker of modern, I guess, metal. I don't know the right word to call it, but he's very tasty and has so much feel, as well as his brother Christopher Amat. I would really love to have Michael on a track, and there is a song on the new album that I thought would be really good, but then I'm like, you know what? Let Eric, our lead guitarist, shred over it, and that way people can hear his talent. And also, like, I was like, we got enough guests, like, it's like it's not a rap album. All of a sudden, you got like 20 rappers and
you're not Drake.
Yeah. Like Kendrick Lamar didn't call me back, but and Whitney Houston died. So no, I'm joking. But like, it would probably be a little overkill. But yeah, Michael Amott, and then of course, I'd love to have. It'd be kind of cool to have Dave Mustaine sing a part of a song. I think he gets so much guff for many things, but I think his voice is so trademarked that when he sings on a song, you know who it is. Like King Diamond too, but like when Dave Mustaine sings, I just for some reason it really resonates with me. I've been a long time Megadeth fan, and I think it'd be awesome to have Dave Mustaine sing a line or a verse with Adam. Like it'd be so different, but yet you would know who is who instantly, right?
I agree with you on that. John Tardy is another guy that the moment you hear a line, you know exactly who's singing it. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah, love John Tardy. I did a couple tours with Obituary and shared a bus with them in North America for like 6 weeks. And greatest guys, one of the best bands I've ever shared a bus with and toured with in North America. And those boys like football. I'm sports illiterate. Like I don't know anything about sports. Like I have friends that like sports, obviously, and some of the guys in my band are into sports. Some are football, and yeah, I think both Erics are really into football. My singer's into football. I don't think my drummer's into sports. He's into video games and metal. But I did this one tour with Obituary, and at one point, I remember the Tardys having like Donald and John having like 3 different screens going, back lounge, front lounge, with different games on. I'm like, Jesus! It was like a Sunday day off, on tour, or a Monday day off, and I was like, you guys have 3 different football games going on? What the hell? John's so mellow. He's like, yeah, man, you don't watch football. Like he thought I was an alien because I didn't watch football, and I was like, I'm like, you're the one with 3 TVs on in here, Tardy. So, but it's crazy. But yeah, I just never been a big sports guy.
You mentioned that you're definitely not a new metal guitar player, but how do you define yourself as a guitar player?
Metal. I'm a metal guitarist, man. Like let the metal flow, as Chuck Schuldiner said, right? My influences, I think I wear on my sleeve. I mean, you can hear Slayer. You can hear a lot of Slayer in me. You can hear some Hetfield. You can hear a lot of Dimebag. I'm not a lead player. I can play some leads, but not at the level of like a Dimebag or a Chuck. But those are the guys that, I'd say like Hetfield, Dimebag, Piggy from Voivod. You don't really hear it in my style, but it's in there. Especially anytime I use a tritone, ugly dissonant chord, it's a nod to Piggy from Voivod. I grew up listening to them a lot. Guys like that, but Kiss, Ace Frehley, those guys. But I would just say I'm a metal guitarist. I mean, I wouldn't. I guess there's no real subgenre to throw it under. I mean, I'm flattered when people say like, "Dude, that's such a Shaun Glass riff," I could tell that's you. Like, and I'm just like, I just laugh. I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, that's just me giving a nod to Gary Holt, or that's that's my Slayerism coming out. It's funny. Like the first band I ever was in, I played bass, and the first song we learned was Slayer Black Magic, and I think because of that, it's stuck in me. Like so, my first band we ever covered was Slayer Black Magic. That was like the song we learned to jam in the garage and piss off the neighbors and stuff. But it was like, I think that because of that, especially of the big 4, like for some reason, just Slayer's been the band that really influenced my writing style a lot. So, but I'm a metal guitarist.
Well, we talked a little bit about Adam, but let me ask you this. His vocals are on point. I think he's the perfect vocalist for the sound that the record has. I think it's one of those things about the chicken and the egg. I don't know if he enhances the songs or the songs allowed him to enhance himself. Regardless of how you look at it, the combination is absolutely perfect. I think you get the most out of both ends. Has he, because of his ability, because of his delivery, his tone, Did he change the way you looked at some of the songs, considering the tools that he offers?
Yeah, the vocals make or break a song, whether it's brutal metal or pop. I mean, absolutely. If Adams, there was a couple songs that we worked hard on that we hit some brick walls that we weren't happy with, and vocally, Adam kept changing stuff, or we tried different ideas for the vocals. And when it finally connects, when it finally kicks in, you're like, there it is, and it's the vocals, and it's definitely Adam's voice. I like his voice so much better than the singer on the first album, and we're friends. It really helps. Like we're like we talk as friends, and we hang out as friends. So there's that bond as really good bros and friends that goes past us being in a band together. But it's funny because um, his voice just fits the music, and it's so weird because I was in a band called Dirge Within for a bunch of years after I left Soil, and he was in a band called Product of Hate. And before they were called Product of Hate, they were called Eye for an Eye. They were from Kenosha, Wisconsin, same backyard as Lazarus AD. And Dirge Within played a lot of shows. We all played shows together, a lot of shows, and we just knew that one day, like when it finally happened, when we started talking, like let's do this, when the lineup change happened, we knew that Adam even said, he's like, I knew one day we'd be in a band together. And then me too. It's so weird. Not to sound so cheesy and a psychic or something, but it was just like we knew it would happen. And maybe that's why his voice just fits so naturally over the style and sound of Repentance. And it's like it was just meant to be in a weird, cheesy way, like a paperback novel.
Well, one last question for you. So you got the album coming out September 1st on Noble Demon. You got a couple of videos, music videos out. You're promoting the record. What's the next step? Are you looking at some shows? Are you looking at maybe try to get some story going? Like what's the plan?
Yeah, next year we're definitely going to look at some going out for a little bit longer than we have, and get in different areas. We need to do some touring, and I think we just did a record release show at home, and it was killer, way beyond our expectations. And we don't play out a lot locally. We're not the band that plays out every month because then you oversaturate your own hometown. But we have a show in Milwaukee, Wisconsin with Orbit Culture coming up.
Oh,
yeah, the end of September at the Rave, where we just played Milwaukee Metal Fest. Jamie Josta brought Milwaukee Metal Fest back, which is legendary for our region and area. And he did a great job. We were really, really stoked to be part of this, the first comeback. And the same place where Metal Fest was brought back to where it originally was. We're playing with Orbit Culture September 22nd in Milwaukee. And then some other stuff's brewing. So we definitely will wrap up that year with some more shows in the region, and then next year look at some proper touring.
Well, I'm going to see the guys from Orbit Culture on the 15th, so I'll tell
Oh,
them.
you see them before they're here.
Yeah, I'll tell them to say hi to you when they see you a couple of days later. So, killer live band. So I think you're going to have a great time.
I haven't seen them yet.
Oh, they're killer, man. They're killer. I saw them with In Flames earlier in the year, and now they're coming back in support with Avatar. So they're playing Toronto on the 15th of September. I'm looking forward to that. And
you're gonna bring them some Tim Hortons?
Huh?
Bring them some Tim Hortons?
Yeah, maybe I'll bring them some Tim. I mean, you kind of have to. It's kind of like it's the local thing to do. I love it when you American guys know about Tim Hortons. It kills me. Like it's like, fuck, are we that predictable as Canadians? Like Tim Hortons is our thing.
So between Tim Hortons and your border, every metal band loves the Canadian border. Not.
I see a little bit of sarcasm in your tone there, but
I've been there at one time for like 3 hours. They were just searching the van. I'm like, you gonna take the tires off, And then like they finally brought us in this one area and took apart the van, looked for everything. Like, all right, guys, have a great tour. And they just leave everything laying out. And you're like, all right, now we're the road crew to put it all back. Thanks so much.
It's hit and miss with those guys, depending on who you see. I'm telling you, even myself as a Canadian coming back through the border, they don't make my life any easier, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah. Like
as a citizen. Wow.
Exactly. Like I was coming back from a vacation with my wife and my son, and they asked me if I had any alcohol, and I said no. I honestly I didn't have any alcohol.
Right.
My wife and they asked her, does he have any alcohol? And I'm like, what do you think she's gonna say? Like, you think she's gonna be like, oh yeah, he's loaded with alcohol? Like what kind of bullshit is that? Like,
That's hilarious.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy, man.
Here's a case of Bush under the seat now. That's so
Like
funny.
they're like, you like I was asked the guy, what, you think she's mad at me or something that she's gonna throw me under the bus or whatever? Like, I'm right here. You asked me, I answered, and you asking her, like, I'm seriously. So yeah, so don't feel
That's
bad,
fun.
man.
That's fun. So did you grow up in Toronto, born and raised?
No, I was born and raised in Portugal. I grew up in Portugal.
Oh,
I came to
wow.
Toronto in 1996 to go to school. Then I met my wife while I was in school, and then I ended up staying here.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you're Portuguese.
Yeah. That's my
Wow.
background. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say because you grew up in Toronto. Like, did you like grow up seeing Rush every weekend? You know.
Actually, this is going to cost me my passport probably, but I'm not a big Rush fan.
All right. I'm not gonna say anything.
I
I'm
get.
not. Wait. I'll say this. This will piss everyone off. I'm not a Led Zeppelin fan at
Oh,
all.
okay. So
See, right?
so we're kind of on the same boat, just on different sides of the boat. I mean,
Yeah, but you. Yeah,
it's not like I
that's
would
weird.
turn it off if it comes on. If it comes on, I'll listen to it. It's not like I'm like, oh, this is unbearable. That's not how I feel about Rush. It's just not a band that I'm like, oh, man, I'm dying to go listen to some Rush today or whatever. It's just never, it's just not my thing.
Gotcha. That's why I was like, well, I know you grew up in. I thought you grew up in Toronto, and I was like, this guy's got to be a Rush fan.
I like
But
their
you're
beer. I like their beer, so there's a
right.
saving grace. Like they have their own
I
beer.
haven't tried it.
Oh yeah, if you come to Toronto, I'll take you to the brewery where they make it. They have a nice
Oh,
little patio there, and you can try different brews like right on the spot where they make the beer. It's super cool.
wow,
So if you come to Toronto,
that's
I'll take you
cool.
there.
What is a big legendary Portugal metal band? I only know one.
I think Moonspell is the biggest.
Is that I knew it? That's funny.
I think they're the biggest. I mean, there's a lot of bands now in Portugal. A lot of bands, good ones. It's just they don't have necessarily the market or I mean, there's one guy at
Or the
A.
label, right? Or
Yeah,
the right
well,
label.
Gaia is probably the one that's going to be the next big one. They're signed with Season of Mist. They're a black metal band. They're going to be on tour this fall with Wolves in the Throne Room, and they
Cool.
did a
What are
tour.
they called?
Gaia,
Gaia.
Area.
I'm not a big black metal guy. I appreciate the classics. I like it's about 3 or 4 Dimmu Borgir albums I like. I like some early Cradle. Midian I like a lot by them. But I don't listen to much black metal nowadays. I've tried, and I saw the movie. I went and saw, what was it called? Lords of Darkness?
Yeah, the Mayhem one.
Yeah. I saw the movie. I thought it was a great movie. And obviously, I grew up in the death metal underground tape trading era with my old band Syndrome. But I think that, I just was never really a black metal guy. I love early Celtic Frost and Hellhammer, and I love early Venom and stuff. But like that stuff is nothing like what black metal's evolved into. And just like, I just never really, grasped onto it.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. It took me a long time to get into it myself. I'm more into it now than I was as a teenager. It's a little bit of become a little
To
bit of
me, to me, it seems more popular than death metal now.
I think right now it is more popular than death metal.
Yeah, I see way more youthful metal kids at gigs wearing black metal shirts. And,
Yeah,
and the trend of not being able to read any logo at all anymore. Our logo looks like Kiss compared to that.
Yeah, well, try to read some deathcore logos or brutal death metal logos or slam logos. Like those
yeah, the slam logos.
Like
yeah,
Sukabog. Try to read their logo. Like if I didn't know how it looked in terms of the shape, I wouldn't be able to read it.
Yeah, it looks like my shower sheet or whatever. I can't read it, man. Like I can't even pronounce that band's name.
Yeah,
how do you say it?
Sugabog, I believe.
What does it mean?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Don't get the tattoo. You get the logo tattoo, you can't read it, and you don't know what it means.
Oh, it would just look like a tattoo gone wrong. That's all it would look like. I mean,
It looks like toilet paper fell off the roll. I
uh,
can't read it.
not as artistic, I must say. You know what it looks
No
like?
disrespect to that band at
No,
all.
no, no, no. I love those guys.
Same. Yeah.
It looks, a lot of these logos look like a leather chair at an old club that's been sit on too much, so the leather starts to crack, and then when it cracks, the lines go into different directions. That's kind of how it looks like.
I like when people make the metal memes of thorns from trees just laying there, and it's just like, what band is this? And
Or
I'm like,
tumbleweeds or things like that. Yeah, I love that shit. That's great.
it's hilarious. Yeah.
All right, Shaun, man. Thank you very much.
It's interesting to see where metal is going.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate you doing this with me today. Once again, the record comes out September 1st on Noble Demon. Go pick it up. Repentance, The Process of Human Demise, sophomore record by these great dudes from Chicago. So go pick it up. And thank you once again for taking the time.
Cool. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Take care, man.